Joe, we are live.
What's up, everybody? December 10th edition of the post-show UFC Fresno Bellator 190 podcast here at Fightful MMA. Yours truly, Joe Ferraro, joined as always with Sean Ross Sapp. Give him a follow online at Sean Ross Sapp. Yours truly at Showdown Joe. Bunch of stuff to discuss. It'll be one of our abbreviated shows for a post-show event. Some stuff to talk about with what just happened down in Fresno, California. We'll talk about what happened at Bellator 190. Very quick main event in terms of the title fight. Sean Ross Sapp, I'll tell you this, though. There's a few things I want to discuss, obviously, with reffing, with judging on this Fresno card, but some of the results were absolutely fantastic. I thought the show was kind of slow to start off. I felt like I lost about 20 minutes of my life 3 or 4 times or more watching some of the fights, but then those last 3 fights for sure were absolutely fantastic.
UFC pacing is just the worst. We've said this about 1 billion times, but while baseball, basketball, football try to find ways to speed up their game, UFC and WWE try to find ways to stretch it out and keep you there as long as possible, which is weird. Maybe it has something to do with ad revenue, maybe something about their deals that maybe I'm not privy to, but man, the pacing can be really, really bad, especially when you have so many fights to begin with. Damn, the pacing was terrible.
It's getting so bad for guys like me that just have so much UFC since day one in '93. I start getting crazy ideas in my head. I'm like, I wonder if it could, like, if it actually would make sense and if it could actually be a reality. I'll throw this your way as people are starting to join the show as we speak. Don't forget, those that are already with us right now, by all means, live chat, top right of your screen. Give us a little shout, interact with us. We'll do the best we can to answer and comment on some of the stuff that you post. But I'll ask you this, Sean. I know it's never going to happen. But what if all MMA fights, the exception of title fights, what if all MMA fights were just 5 minutes? 1 round, 5 minutes, fight.
Damn.
You want finishes? You want fighting? You got 5 minutes. Go.
Yeah, but you might have a lot of guys just wanting to squeak out and ride that 5 minute laying on top of somebody. Man, I don't want that. I don't want that.
You don't think it would work?
Damn. Well, or, Brian Ortega, he wouldn't have won tonight.
Very true. Very true. And he took everything Cub Swanson. He was like, I would say he was walking through those thunderous punches that Cub was landing, but he did. He went right through everything, and it was just like, I'm going to get a hold of you eventually. Eventually, I'm just going to close this distance slowly but surely, and he did it. And at the end of that first round, and that was a good round. That, I bet you for sure, John McCarthy will take that round and put it into his command course for judging, because that was a round that you could look at and say, okay, Cub Swanson with numbers outstruck Brian Ortega big time. But did anything he do really try and end that fight in comparison to Ortega's final few seconds in that first round where Swanson was saved by the bell?
Well, it seemed like in the opening moments of the fight, like Cub Swanson was fighting Ortega like he was a Gracie, like kicking at his legs, like not really respecting his hands, trying to eliminate that. And you started to see Swanson slipping punches, which he is so good at doing. And with a guy like Ortega, he can do it. Then we saw Ortega do what he does best. Now, in the second round, we saw Ortega like shoot in for takedowns and stuff. We don't necessarily see a lot of that out of him. What Brian Ortega is so good at, and what actually won in the fight, he capitalizes on the mistakes of others. It's like a Venus flytrap. Like, you make that mistake and he clamps down on you and he doesn't let go. Swanson was saved by the bell in the first round, and he couldn't get saved by the bell in the second round. That's all Ortega needed, was for Swanson to make a mistake. And this happens all the time. And I think Swanson's last 2 losses are bystanding guillotines, which something to be looked at there probably for him. But if it's Brian Ortega and you give him that opportunity, he's going to take that opportunity every single day. So I don't know if there's a lot you can like go to the drawing board with in that regard as it pertains to a standing guillotine, but Swanson has got caught by 2 in a row. But that's one thing that stands out to me. Ortega is never out of any fight. Like that, I believe. Like there are some people like Mark Hunt. He's never out of any fight because he can throw that just that wild punch and knock you out. We don't see that a lot out of submission specialists. Like even Damian Maia, like there are plenty of times when I see him in fights and I'm like, he's out of that fight. Brian Ortega, there's just something about him where not only do I not think he's out of a fight, man, he waits for somebody to screw up and then he capitalizes. How about how he readjusted that choke while holding on to Cub Swanson? That was unbelievable.
Crazy.
That was psychotic. That was awesome.
The only thing, I mean, it's just pure skill. I mean, 14 years of doing jiu-jitsu at his age is just absolutely. I mean, I've seen crazy things. If you ever get a chance, try and watch one of Sean Pearson's. It's not a submission per se, but watch Sean Pearson's one of his early fights against Chad Sanders or something like that. I forgot what the guy's name was, but Pearson was caught in the armbar, and he ran along the cage. So they were on the ground, and he had his feet on the cage, and he ran around the cage, literally to get out of the armbar. Another one I seen in TKO was Richard Nanku had, I think, a guillotine on, and he slapped on a triangle choke in midair to get the submission. So to see that type of jiu-jitsu, that type of skill set, you got to have years and years and years of experience understanding what your body can handle, what your body can do when you're in the air. And for Ortega to do that is just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, this kid's got crazy skills.
Very impressed by that. That was really cool. What do you think of his post-fight interview?
Weird, cool, nice, strange, old soul, nice, weird, what? Who? Okay. One of those.
Like a little too clean cut for you?
Yeah, what about
he hit all the spots? Jesus, charity, and loving his dad. Like he fit all those in. And saying that he's going to let a more worthy contender fight for the title. Damn, man. Who you trying to convince? Me or yourself, bro?
Yeah, he's good peeps. He's not. I mean, it's not like Sage Northcutt doing a post-fight interview. Sage Northcutt, sometimes I'm kind of like, what's he saying, man? What's he saying?
Sage is like looking for milk and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah. So, but good on Brian. You know what?
Did you see him in the crowd tonight, looking like Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell with that shirt on, looking like he had Screech next to him? Was he there to support AC Slater? Because AC Slater had an amateur wrestling background. Maybe he crossed over.
Yeah, I don't. This Sage is a good fighter though, man. He's fast. He's explosive, but it's just not on my vibe. If you know what I'm saying. So
somebody asked if Holloway is a harder puncher than Cub. If I trust him to punch better than Cub at range, with accuracy and for power and volume. Like I won't say that he hits harder than Cub Swanson, but I'll say when you factor in all that stuff, range, volume, accuracy, and power, I consider Max Holloway a better striker, all things considered. Because that volume just doesn't come with Cub Swanson these days.
No, the champ's one thing, because you look at the way Max closed that distance down on Jose Aldo Jr. in both fights, especially in this last one, and how he was so smart with his striking, very precise. And very punishing whenever he get a chance to land those strikes. So Cub throws with reckless abandon. He's got technique. He'll throw things from that where you're not expecting, and he throws with a lot of power, which I'm always going to respect from any fighter. When you're throwing stuff like that, it's pretty damn good. It just needs to land, or you're going to get in big trouble.
Yeah, I would agree. So Ortega, any idea where do you think he goes from here?
Ortega?
Yeah,
he's going to get one more fight. He's not. I mean, he's not going to sit there and wait for. I shouldn't say he won't, but I don't think he should wait for the winner of Holloway and Edgar. That fight hasn't even been announced. We don't know when that's going to happen, and you need to get paid, and take out the next contender in the division.
You know who's ranked ahead of him and shouldn't be, but is ranked ahead of him?
Jose?
No. Well, he is. The Korean Zombie.
Okay. I don't like Chan Zhengsheng's chances against Ortega.
I don't either. I don't like his chances against anybody in the top 10. But I mean, he's got to fight him. He's ranked number 5 for some weird reason. The Korean Zombie has won one fight in 5.5 years. One fight in 5.5 years. And somehow he is ranked number 5. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But at some point, he's got to fight one of those people. It's either going to be Yair Rodriguez or Brian Ortega, I think.
True. Yeah, I think Ortega's just at a different level. He's just fantastic, man.
I don't think they'll put Ortega in there with a Jeremy Stevens, a guy that we know isn't in his league, but could still beat him, because that's just how Jeremy Stevens is. I don't think they'll put him against Darren Elkins, who's top 10 on a great winning streak, but very well could beat Brian Ortega. I think at this point, if they got a Brian Ortega who main evented one of their shows and he's going to get beat by somebody, it's going to be somebody that they can or want to market or is ahead of him. Ricardo Lamas is ranked ahead of him as well. Is he booked? Yes, he's booked against Josh Emmett next weekend.
Ooh, what do you get in trouble with the UFC matchmaking team? Okay.
Damn. Well, Josh Emmett's won 3 of 4, but yikes. Now for Cub Swanson, where does Cub Swanson go?
Was this the last fight in his contract, or did he get an extension? I think it's the last fight of his contract.
It might be, yeah. And also we had like a new persona for him too, like the family man, the father, like straight up having his kid asleep ringside.
That's they should have put some headphones on the child. The little girl should not be.
Congrats to him. It's good to see that he's taking a lot of fatherhood.
Have you ever met him?
I haven't.
Good peeps, man.
He reminds me so much. Like he looks and sounds like that guy who I made the joke of, the amateur boxer in our gym who had a karate and wrestling background that we didn't know about. Looks just like him. Sounds just like him. Like we had
a fair amount of beverages. Myself, my old boss, Bobby T, who I've mentioned on the show before, and Cub at an establishment within the MGM. And it was like just 2-3 hours of 3 dudes just talking. He's very philosophical, very smart, very humble, comes across like just as one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And just you look at him, and the guy's just a killer. Right, so I like Cub. He's a good guy, good peeps. We'll see where he goes from here. But I think I like your idea about you brought up the Korean Zombie. I'll take Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega in a main event.
I mean, Ortega's probably winning that fight, but if he doesn't, it's because Korean Zombie knocks him dead. And if Korean Zombie knocks him dead, he's probably not going to move up in the rankings. He'll probably stick around number 5. But at least he's done something to deserve that ranking. Now, I'm not saying that Korean Zombie's like not a good fighter. He's a good fighter. And this is a division where Jeremy Stevens is ranked in the top 10. That's weird, but he is. But you gotta do something to earn that, and he's not fought since that February fight with Dennis Bermudez that he very well could have lost too. It looked like it was going to go that way at one point, but Gabriel Benitez dominated Jason Knight. Man, Jason Knight just got worse as this fight went on. It always, we've got these kind of redneck guys that the UFC picks up that are a little oddball, and they'll fight like 4 or 5 times a year, and they'll put on good fights like he did against Skelly and Caceres. But now Jason Knight has dropped 2 in a row to Lamas and Benitez, and this is Benitez, one of his better wins, and he just dominated Jason Knight. By the end of the fight, Knight was bringing up his back foot when he was throwing strikes. It looked real ugly.
He got beat up. This is a guy whose fights I've called a Titan. He got beat up by a guy that I thought he was going to potentially, if he could get this fight down on the ground. Little did I realize that Gabriel Benitez's ducking, slipping, bobbing and weaving angles and footwork were ridiculous in this fight, to the point where Jason was just kind of like, you heard Paul Felder talking about that, maybe Jason should sort of kind of tune down the power punching. He just wanted to knock Benitez's head off, and Benitez was just fantastic with his striking. Great game plan, stuck to the game plan, did what he had to do, kept bringing it back to the center of the octagon, didn't go down to the ground. I thought he did an absolutely fantastic job in this fight.
Yep, he is now 4-2 in the UFC. Good for UFC's Mexico market. Great win
How
for
does a
him.
29-27 get scored on that card?
Hell if I know. I'm just glad they got the right guy at this
Two of them
point.
got it right 30-26, and one got it 29-27, which means you gave a round to Jason Knight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure one of these guys gave Aljamain Sterling a round too, and he didn't make it past 80 seconds.
Oh my,
I didn't think I mean, I said it on the Holy Smokes MMA podcast. I didn't give him a chance in hell. I gave him that 1% chance of like that I give every person that's in an MMA fight. There's nothing that I've seen out of Aljamain Sterling, all due respect to him and his skill set, that led me to believe he was going to beat Marlon Moraes. Now, I saw somebody say, wow, this really shows you how good Rafael Assunção is. I was like, no, it doesn't, because Marlon Moraes should have won that fight too. 78% of fans and 95% of reported media gave that fight to Marlon Moraes. He stepped right in and kneed Sterling unconscious. It was almost uncomfortable. But Sterling got his one chance to win and jumped all over it. And kudos to him for that, because that armbar looked scary for a hot second.
Which fight was that?
Aljamain Sterling, Marlon Moraes.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was just kind of like, what just happened there? Yeah, no, but so Marlon's skill set, we've all known that. I mean, the guy is just ridiculous. And I mean, this fight in 67 seconds was just one of the craziest things. There was another fight on this card here, the opening fight of the broadcast, where the first minute was just insane. First 2 minutes were insane, but Marlon Moraes is just a bad man. Like, I mean, he's officially contender in his division. I saw your tweet afterwards saying who he should be fighting next, and case closed.
What did he say?
No, what you said in terms of who he should be fighting next, like the Dillashaws,
Garbrandt, Cruz, or the winner of Rivera-Lineker. That's it. Not Assunção. he won that fight. Not Caraway, because Caraway ain't going to fight him. Sterling's next down. He already beat Dodson. Almeida, once you get down there, it's Almeida, Munoz, Wineland, Brett Johns. No thanks. This is a guy who is good. Like, he should be on an unreal winning streak right now. But two judges screwed the man against him. Screwed him. And it's sad. And I was told that Moraes looked very concerned for Sterling in the cage. I hope Sterling is okay.
He is. There are reports that came out of the arena that he's fine. He was talking to doctors and he's okay. But yeah, I mean, to say his bell got rung, I mean, that gif is going to live on forever.
Yeah, he's dropped like, 2 of his last 5, or dropped 3 of his last 5. But he does have he beat Barao in like July, so he's still got that to fall back on. If you're beating Renan Barao at this stage, at least, then I think you deserve to be a top 10 fighter in that division. But we talked about where Moraes goes. For Sterling, I think it'd be smart maybe put him up against Dodson. That way, at least one of them is going to win.
Well, yeah. I like to see that fight. That'd be fun.
I mean, you got Almeida and Rob Font on the 220 show, which is a solid fight. Glad that they have that on there. Speaking of 220, we'll go ahead and talk about this. Officially announced, Ngannou. Not Ozdemir, not Cormier. I was about to say both of them. Ngannou, Miocic, it's happening. UFC saw the dollar signs and they made that. Boy, that contract dispute went away right quick, didn't it, Joe?
Real quick. Super quick.
Right quick. This is the fight that needed to happen. I think this is the biggest UFC heavyweight fight since UFC on Fox 1, in my opinion. To me, it is. And that show, for the UFC not having a bunch of pay-per-view draws, like single draws, the way that they have put together this stretch of shows from 218 to 219 to 220, damn, that looks good.
You're saying Dos Santos and Velasquez was yeah, okay, I can see that. That was a big,
because of the scope of everything, and
I was there for that. That was insane.
Fox show was 10 million people watched it, so
Yeah, that was pretty insane. Yeah, but this Ngannou and Miocic fight, I mean, I'm looking at the calendar, counting down the days already. I mean, it's going to be absolutely insane. We're going to get a real answer officially as to who the baddest man on the planet is.
Yeah.
I don't think there
But
could be any question after that fight.
yeah, I want to compliment the UFC for how they've done this. Like UFC 216, they put a couple title fights on, and that show was not like, we're not going to sit here and pretend like that was some big marquee fight, but I think they kind of learned from that. 3 title fights on 217, and it was supported by Wonder Boy Masvidal. You had Hendricks on that show. That was good booking. 218, you had Holloway and Aldo, Ngannou Overeem, Cejudo Pettis, Alvarez Gaethje, Torres Watterson. You had all kinds of exciting fights on that show. 219 is coming up, Joe. You have Cyborg Home, which I consider, in my opinion, that might be like the highest level women's MMA fight of all time. It's right up there, in my opinion.
It's weird because I was watching that promo and I thought to myself, if Holly Holm defeats Cyborg, she'll have defeated Cyborg and Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah.
And I immediately started thinking, is she the greatest women's mixed martial arts of all time? But then you look at those losses, those 3 losses that she had, and you're like, kills the argument a bit.
Yeah, and Duran, to me, a lot of people had Holm winning that fight too.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's rough too. But on that show, you got Nurmagomedov, Barboza, Rivera, Lineker, Calvillo, Esparza, Condit, Magny. What a awesome show. Awesome show. Like, especially the main card. You got 5. To me, you put 5 like fights that people will just look at and go, those matter. That's good. And then on 220, you've got Miocic and Ngannou, Cormier, Ozdemir. I'm pretty sure that Almeida and Font is on that. I got to be sure. I might be wrong. I think I may have misspoke on that, but they need to add something to that, make it a little less top heavy. But shout out to the UFC for doing that. Anyway, elsewhere on the show, Eric Anders defeated Marcus Perez. Scott Holtzman defeated Daryl Horcher. Benito Lopez over Albert Morales. Andre Sukumtoth TKO'd Luke Sanders. Now, this is what I wanted to ask you about. Luke Sanders, WWE fans may know Luke Sanders is Becky Lynch's boyfriend. That finish, it was like, it wasn't getting any better for Luke Sanders. I'll say that. It's one of those sad situations where maybe he wasn't hurt. It could have been a flash knockout, but it just wasn't going to get any better for Luke Sanders no matter what happened. He was aware, and he had a hold of the ref's heel. To me, that either means the ref's in too close, or Luke Sanders is a little out of it, or he needs to get out of there. What did you think of the finish?
It's the Brian Caraway effect, because he should have been fighting Brian Caraway in this fight. He ends up getting TKO in the second round. So I originally thought that the stoppage came too early because the positioning of the referee was incorrect. He was too close to the fighters to gauge anything. And then I saw the replay, because when I first saw the stoppage, I'm like, no, let him go. Let him go. I know it may not be looking good, but let him go. Give him credit. He's a tough guy. He can take it. He may be able to recover. He may be able to bring him close and be able to just kind of, buy some time. But then when you see the replay, there was one shot where you could see Luke's eyes kind of just go back in his head, or kind of the gaze of like, I just been knocked out. And then he wakes up and he keeps going. That's after he got dropped. So I'm okay with the stoppage. I'm okay. I think the referee positioning was incorrect, but I'm okay with the stoppage.
Alexis Davis defeated Liz Carmouche. I mentioned this before, Joe. Every fight in this division is important. This one really was. And somebody asked me, why? Is it because everybody could be one win away from a title shot? And I said, exactly. Because everybody could be one win away. I mean, you've got Valentina Shevchenko in talks to face a woman who's never been in the UFC before in this division, because it's still hashing itself out. Alexis Davis got the win. I liked the fight. I really enjoyed it. Carmouche working out of those arm bars, that was impressive. What do you think of the decision?
That's fair. I agreed because just the way Davis had the opportunity to finish the fight in 2 different rounds. more than Carmouche did. I mean, there was a couple of other fights on this card. I'm trying to remember which one it actually was. It may have been this one here when I was thinking, the fans are booing because they're judging damage. What they're seeing is the left side of Alexis Davis's face, the hematoma just completely bruised and battered, and not realizing that this is not a fight. This is a mixed martial arts bout. You don't judge the fight like they used to do in Pride. You're judging it by rounds, unfortunately. So whatever happens in the first round, a new round. So if the damage happened and it looks like that face is, or her eye is getting just worse and worse and worse as the fight goes on, that happened in the first round. It has nothing to do with the second round. Now, if it continues to get punished, she breaks her nose, blah, blah, yeah, you can start scoring it that way. But people have a tendency to look at the fighters at the very end of a fight and say, oh, man, that person, the other person won. If it was a fight, yeah, but it's a mixed martial arts bout, and it's judged by round. So
66% of media gave it to Davis. Listen to this split on MMAdecisions.com. 47.8% to Davis, 47.8% Carmouche, and 4.3 gave it a draw. This is a fight where I think that if you paid attention to it, it shouldn't have hurt anybody's standing. Carmouche, as I said, though, had Carmouche won, who knows what this does for the division, because she takes 11 months off at least after every fight. I mean, at one point, 16 months off. Davis missed time too, but she was having a kid. So I don't think that I don't think Liz Carmouche was harmed in this division. People still know who she is. You cannot take what Liz Carmouche has away from her, and that's that she was in the first ever UFC Women's Championship fight, and she was real close to beating Ronda Rousey. And that's something that people will remember. It will stick out in their minds. And also, I mean, Liz Carmouche is just a really good representation or representative of the sport. She will be 34 in a few months by the time she fights next. Davis will be 30. She's still 33. So some established women here, Joe, but we don't know how they will translate to 125 against some of the young and up-and-comers.
Well, isn't Nico the champ getting surgery?
Is she? I've been out today.
Apparently she's
interim championship.
Yeah, right? She's getting surgery. Yeah. I'm looking at some of the live chat here. You guys are you're complimenting. Someone's saying I look cold, or Matei says I look cold. It's damn cold, man. Yeah, I'm cool. I rarely wear sweaters in my house.
I wanted to snowboard tonight, but my board doesn't.
Can you teach me how to snowboard?
I need to teach me how to snowboard first. I just said I tried to snowboard tonight. I have a snowboard. It doesn't mean that I can.
I've got goggles. I've got the headgear. I've got the specific shorts to wear because I have a bruised tailbone for 4.5, 5 years now from a snowboarding incident where I fell 4 straight times on the same mountain in the same spot on the same patch of ice. And they tried to come out with the skidoo with the stretcher. I said, "You guys put me on that stretcher. I'll triangle choke you guys. Get off me. I'll take the board off and I'll walk down this mountain." "No, you can't do that, sir." "Yeah, I'm walking down the mountain." I walked down the mountain, Sean, in pain, took off them boots, took out a thing. I said, "I'm going in there to grab a drink. I ain't snowboarding for a while."
Yes, Nico Montano is getting surgery on her foot. And yes, that would likely happen to me as well.
Yeah, it's not fun. Not fun. I love it though. I love it. I love sort of just the freedom, but yeah, I should take lessons.
UFC Fresno. Anything else stick out to you besides our buddy? I shouldn't say our buddy. It makes us sound biased, but I mean, it's nothing controversial happened. There were no bad calls. Frank Trigg in the UFC cage as a ref. It made me very happy. What made me happier, Joe, was his stoppage. An all-star stoppage.
Yes, Frank did a fantastic job. I'll flat out say he's my buddy, he's my friend. We've done a lot of things outside of the mixed martial arts world together. So yeah, Frank's my boy, and I'm very proud of him, very happy for him. And even his, in comparison, who was it? I forgot who the other ref was. But Frank, you don't mess around with Frank. You better fight. You got to fight. If you're not fighting, if you're stalling, if no action is happening, and he's warned you to improve your position or do something, he'll separate you. Beltran, yeah, Mike Beltran, who's a good ref. Just had some two interesting. It was in the Holtzman fight. In the Holtzman fight, where I'm like, no, he's getting mount, man. He's got mount. You can't. So
I remember one time Bobby Lashley got stood up for mount against Chad Griggs, and like it was a very inactive mount. But I was sitting there thinking, he better be asleep in that mount. And I think that was Bobby Lashley's one loss. I think maybe he lost again to James Thompson or somebody. By the way, James Thompson versus Ole Thompson next week in a fight that I never knew that I needed, but I'm getting on Bellator. Trevin Giles won via TKO. Davey Ramos defeated Chris Gutzmacher. Damn, I butchered that name. Rear naked choke. Alejandro Perez defeated Yuri Alcantara. Frankie Sainz, rough decision. Alex Perez submitted Carl's John De Thomas with it was an anaconda or a darce?
I thought it was a darce.
I thought it was a darce too. The results have it listed as anaconda. Over on Bellator, though, not a whole lot to talk about. Brandon Gertz looked real good. I just wanted to point that out. His fight only lasted a couple of minutes. He was on a 3-fight losing streak. If he lost, he was probably out of the out of the Bellator. And this came after a streak where he won 5 of 6 fights in Bellator. But he looked awesome. He looked like a great fighter tonight. But the story of Bellator was Rafael Carvalho. Rafael Carvalho, unfortunately, has a stigma associated with him because of the first Melvin Manhoef fight.
Yep.
A lot of people don't understand how much of a badass Rafael Carvalho is. 15-1, 15 wins in a row. His only loss is in his debut. And tonight he KO'd and obliterated Alessio Sakara in 45 seconds with one of the sickest elbows I have ever seen. This comes after he knocked out Melvin Manhoef in their rematch, which I don't know why it was booked. Like in that event, I just say, sorry, guys. He TKO'd and beat Brandon Halsey before that. And Brandon Halsey looked like something back then. Like, looked like he was going to be something special. This guy is real good. He's real good. And up next, Joe, he's probably got Gegard Mousasi. Gegard Mousasi said, bring it on, do it. This is the biggest fight in the Bellator middleweight division ever. Ever. The only thing that maybe touches it is Lombard Shlemenko, but I think
that was big.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest one ever, all things considered. A couple reasons why. Gegard Mousasi's track record, just, what can you say about it? Carvalho tonight tied Alexander Shlemenko with his 3rd consecutive successful middleweight title defense. The only person in Bellator period that he trails is Ben Askren. Mm-hmm. Hats off to Rafael Carvalho.
Yeah, that's going to be a good fight, though, man. I mean, to be honest with you, like my fellow Italian there, Alessio Sakara, has no business competing in mixed martial arts anymore. He was a fantastic boxer before he got to the UFC. When he got to the UFC, he took a lot of punishment, which took a lot of almost like years off his life. His chin was becoming suspect. To the tail end of that, he then goes over to Bellator. We saw what he did in Bellator, and then he gets this title fight, and Carvalho is just on a different level than Alessio right now. So like Carvalho,
he's unbeaten in his last 4 fights. Sakara is, and he had a nice run in Bellator last year, 2016. But it's been a year since he fought.
Yeah, man.
And I don't know if putting a guy who hasn't fought in a year, then making him cut to a weight that he hasn't competed at in 4 years at middleweight, because he had been fighting at light heavyweight. And, Brian Rogers and Joey Beltran ain't Rafael Carvalho. Correct. That I can confirm. Dib Akil, he ain't Rafael Carvalho. That was bad. Now, the division is rough, but just why not Mousasi? Why not Mousasi? Why not
What's
Shlemenko doing these days?
What if Carvalho wins that fight?
Huh?
Okay. What if Carvalho wins that fight, beats Mousasi?
then he's, well, without a doubt, the best Bellator middleweight of all time, Hector Lombard included. Man, that's a title. Well, you could say this for any Bellator title, but that's a title that went through some rough times. Lombard won it June 09, didn't defend it until October 2010, then vacated it 16 months later without defending it. Then they didn't even get a new champion for 10 months. And then finally it started to pick up steam. But then when Halsey won it, he missed weight.
Yeah.
Damn. So, what a shame.
Quick thing before we wrap this up here. Are you buying or selling this Dana White just denied Conor McGregor versus Manny Pacquiao is in negotiations?
I think it's been pitched. I don't know if they're in negotiations, but I think there's something going on there. Hey, the UFC,
you think
if you do believe Dana White, the UFC had their best financial year in 2017 without any giant pay-per-view numbers from the UFC. But on the back of Mayweather, McGregor, and the cut that they got, it became their most successful year. They can do it again. I'm sure they will.
People need to, Dana White drops these little seeds everywhere that a lot of the media members never catch, especially when he do those scrums. He's wearing a Zuffa boxing shirt for a reason.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that. I mean, I remember when McGregor and Mayweather was talked about, we all said it's never going to happen, never going to happen, never going to happen. Well, it happened. So
sure did.
With this Pacquiao and McGregor thing, at this point, never say never, man. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Strip him of the belt, though. Get him out of here. That's enough.
Guys, head over to Fightful. We have a ton of exclusives, too many to even mention. This week on the Holy Smokes MMA podcast, 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, you will hear from. How about this? How about Holly Holm? How about Chris Cyborg? James Lynch talked to them both recently. How about Michael McDonald? I spoke to him this week. He's about to make his Bellator debut next week. We'll hear from him as well. How about that? How about that?
There may be some breaking news on Tuesday's Holy Smokes podcast. I will endeavor to see if the parties will allow the news to be broken. Is that fair?
Well, the party is always happening on Tuesdays, at 3 p.m. on the Holy Smokes MMA podcast, guys. I want to thank you all so much. It means a lot. You all stayed up late with us. We were originally going to do this show tomorrow, but some things got moved around. I was able to work tonight, able to make it, and Showdown Joe, without hesitation, hopped on the show. So thank you to Joe as well. Leave us a thumbs up, subscribe, let people know about us. We're still very, very young, especially on the MMA side, but you head over to that exclusive section on FightfulMMA.com. You all are going to see a ton of stuff that you won't get anywhere else. Guys, until next time, we are out.